From Koreatown, Los Angeles, thank you for tuning in to Ktown Social Club. We bring together all viewpoints from every angle to talk about the issues that you really care about. Leave a comment, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and smash that notification bell. Check the description box below to follow our social media and find out about our podcasts. I'm Michael Kim, joined today by Ed Choi, Doug Kim, and of course, our shit. And we have a very special guest today who joining us.
Crash and burn. Sorry.
The head of the DPRK Newsroom YouTube channel and the guy who produced the Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang in Seoul documentary and another documentary, which we'll talk about. David Yoon, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You know, David was actually also the first host of Ktown Social Club. He hosted episode 1 with Theodore Henderson.
Yes.
And we were here also with Jane Nguyen. You remember Jane?
Yep.
Now she is our LA City Controller, Kenneth Mejia's chief of staff.
Yeah. I saw that.
Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah. Very good.
You know what I just realized? We didn't clap last week at all.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I guess there was just like a subconscious lack of respect.
No. It was very conscious for me. Because I knew that you guys wouldn't want to clap for Arthur, so I didn't clap. And
I mean, if you clapped, I would have clapped.
I would not have.
And then I didn't clap for Young Kim because, you know.
Trauma?
Huh?
Drama?
We got to work something out.
Sounds like drama.
So anyway.
For the issues at you!
Yeah, so anyway, Dave, thanks for coming. I mean,
Thank you.
What's new with you? I mean, you had a new... last time you were here, you talked about you were going to make a new documentary. So what happened? Did you make it?
Yeah, was that? I wonder if that's before or after I filmed it. Like, it was whether it was during the editing phase or when
You
I was
were
planning
in the
it.
process of... the final process of, like, editing.
Okay, yeah.
The worst part.
It took me so long.
Oh my God, editing takes
It took me so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to edit? Because you filmed this, like, over a year ago, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, it was a lot of laziness on my part. If I just, like, really sat down every single day and put in 2-3 hours into it, I probably could have finished in half a year faster. But, yeah, there were moments where, like, I wanted to, like, give up, so I would stop. And there were moments where, like, I didn't like what I, did. So, like, I would just, like, delete portions of it. But so it took, like, a year, yeah.
And you used the same laptop, the Sony.
Laptop?
Didn't you make your first documentary with your Sony laptop? I remember you told me about that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. No, this was on my desktop. I got a gaming computer a couple years ago, so I used it.
Okay, cool. And is it called? Was it Shingminji?
Shingminji, yeah.
How the U.S. colonized South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So what's this about? It's just about what's the argument? You're saying that South Korea is a U.S. colony?
Yeah. So it covers the history of what happened to the Korean Peninsula after Japan retreated. Japan lost World War II, retreated. So it goes into two things. One, how pretty much the U.S. Just grabbed South Korea as a colony, but also the revolution in the North, which I think most people don't know about. Mm-hmm. And one of the interviews that I have is from a prisoner of war who was in prison for over 42 years.
Wow.
And I saw him actually a couple months ago when I was in Korea again. He's still healthy, which is really great.
He was imprisoned under what regime?
Well, pretty much through all the regimes until like either probably Kim Dae-jung.
Wait, so when was he jailed? 42 years ago. That was...
Yeah, so he was captured during the war in 1953. Like he was captured.
He was a soldier of...
So yeah, he was.
Oh, so he was released in 1995 then?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So yeah, he was captured. I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe he was captured on April of 1953. So this was like months before the war ended. He's in his 90s. Yeah, he's in his 90s. Yeah. But one thing about these grandpas, so he was like, I filmed a bunch of grandpas that I still can keep in contact with. So these are all previous...
And this is all in this one?
No, I was only able to include one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was difficult filming and editing the 할아버지들 because they talk really slow, and because they're so old, they might just like go on and on and on.
Just
like
2x speed it. No, just kidding.
No, I don't think people who don't edit like don't understand how hard it is to clip someone's speech together and make it make sense, but cut out all the
it's
fluff.
hard while being
really
respectful.
Hard. Right, while being respectful, but also having it still flow like a sentence.
You
It's
would
hard,
usually,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you would usually cut to some sort of other sort of visual thing, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
would splice. Yeah.
I did a little bit of that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I did a little
Also,
bit
I
of
think
that.
with the invention with TikTok and social media and all the jump cuts, I think people get used to the fact that sometimes like you just
yeah,
and you're you know what I mean, like
yeah.
But yeah, you typically do try to splice in
Yeah.
B-roll.
So this grandfather, he was a soldier during the war.
Yeah, so he was like
He
part
fought
of
for the North, or
yeah. So he was actually born in what's now Southern Korea in Gangwon Island, and he saw the fighting break out. So most people think that 6.25 like June 25 is when the Korean War started, but fighting started really a year before with border fighting, and he saw all of that because he lives right along the 30th parallel, so he saw the fighting happening and.
With the Jeju uprising, the Yozu rebellion afterwards, right?
Yeah, including all that. I mean, he wasn't near that region, but I mean, he was living during that entire time.
Okay.
And he talks about how, when the U.S. came in and, Japan retreated, he was like, wow, we're finally liberated, we're free. And then quickly he realized, oh shit, like our colonial masters just changed.
Yeah.
We're not really liberated.
Changing of the guard.
Yeah. And so that's when during the war, he went up to Pyongyang and he said himself that he got training, he received education.
What year was that when he went to Pyongyang?
He went. I don't know if he actually specified. Oh no, he did, but I'm not forgetting the.
It was
he
before
went-
the war, right?
It was either before or during.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget the exact dates, but
see.
So he went up there and he was able to actually witness the fruits of the revolution up there and wartime, and so he came down as a special guerrilla group, guerrilla unit, behind enemy lines, and he said that all his comrades were killed in action, he was captured alive, and I mean it's actually these grandpas were actually the ones that made me have awakening when it comes to North Korea.
How many were there?
So there were 90 total. Now there's
Oh,
only a
wow.
couple surviving. Most of them
Yeah.
died. Yeah.
Oh, when did you interview them when there were 90?
I interviewed Anaksa Harabaji when he was. So this was last summer. Wait, was it 2 summers ago? It might have been
Oh,
2
wait.
summers ago.
I meant when did most of these? You said there were 90 of them, but when did they mostly pass away?
Oh, in the past 20 years, a lot
Okay.
of them
Yeah,
actually. There was a first round repatriation where those who chose to go back to Pyongyang were allowed to go do so. But
When was that?
that was during the 90s, I believe, or early 2000s.
during DJ
Shane-
Kim.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. During the Sunshine Policy.
Right.
Yeah.
But since then, the South Korean government stopped that and won't let the rest of them go. Yeah.
Okay. So what? So he fought for the North side during the war, and then in the mid '90s, I guess they freed him, and he decided not to go back. Okay. I guess.
How did you find all of these?
So if my mom has been a longtime activist for reunification and anti-imperialism. So she has a bunch of connections. Everyone I
She
interviewed.
lives in Korea?
No, she lives with me in LA.
Yeah.
But she has because she's an activist here too. She also communicates a lot with activists in South Korea.
Wow, yeah.
Does she
Everyone
also
that I
communicate
interviewed.
with the Zainichi?
Yeah. And I'm planning on going to Japan at one point to.
Yeah, let me know when
go
you
to
do. 'Cause I'd
Chosonkyo
be
and-
wanting to
Yeah.
check that out as well.
Yeah, I want to film a documentary, maybe hopefully in a.
How about the Koreans in
Chosonkyo.
Japan?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Choson.
Chosonkyo, yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Cool.
always been curious about that too. I'd
Yeah.
watch that.
Even if you step foot in their school or something, KCIA takes photos and they record everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I have one of my friends. She's one of those students.
Oh, really?
I mean, now she's like a mother, but she
Yeah,
still
yeah.
lives in Japan, and
Okay.
yeah, and her dad still goes to the North regularly for work,
Oh wow.
business
Very
or
cool.
something.
That's very
It's
cool.
pretty weird, huh?
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she lives out in Fukuoka, so I don't think they're up to anything weird. Probably trading fish or I
Yeah.
don't know, something like
Yeah.
that. Okay, cool. Well, so your documentary is about the grandpa and his story and
Yeah. So that and also the current state of the struggle to fight the U.S. occupation, the ongoing U.S. occupation in South Korea.
most South Koreans, would you say they support the occupation?
Honestly, I'm either. My answer would be either that or they don't like it, but they think it's necessary. Well, we don't like the U.S., but they protect us, so we need them. I think that's probably the more.
When I went 7 years ago, it just seemed like most people didn't even think it was an issue.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they don't they just don't think
care
of
about
it.
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because I went to Seoul Tower for the first time in 2017, and I was like,
Sun Tower?
Seoul Tower?
I don't know. I guess it was called Seoul Tower at the time. It was the tallest building in Seoul.
Yuksan building?
Yuksum building?
I don't know. It's 120
Now it's
floors.
Lotte building. It's freaking tall.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I just like joked like, oh, this must be like the #1 target for nukes or something.
Yeah.
Or like, whatever. We don't care about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So
But yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, I mentioned it briefly in the documentary, but I think in today's world, colonialism
one.
isn't, you know, where the colonial, you know, country sends people to govern, the soldiers to patrol everywhere. You know, it doesn't really quite work like that anymore.
Yeah,
as
it
long as
ended
you
in
have
1945
certain,
pretty much,
right?
after
If
World
you
War
have
II.
control over certain things of the country, you effectively silently, you know, or silently or quietly colonize, you know, country.
I mean, that's pretty much why, like, most Americans should relate to that because that's pretty much why we fought the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
A lot of the same things that we do to other countries, like capital controls and other kinds of things, that's what England did to America. They were like, oh, you're not allowed to accumulate capital to make finished goods. We're going to sell that to you. And so in the same way of method of control, you know, that's what America does a lot of other places. You know, but it says we're spreading democracy, etc.
yeah.
So how was the documentary? How was it received? I know your first documentary was a hit. I think even PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation, put it on their YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I knew that it wasn't going to get like nearly as many views as the first one, just because the first one had a huge shock factor to it. Like, no one's ever heard of people from North Korea talking about North Korea in anything but a negative way. So I knew that it was not going to be as good. But I really wanted to do it to really like immortalize the Harabaji and just, you know, kind of tell that narrative. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. You know, I'm happy the people who haven't heard from me in like years commented like, oh, you're back. And I was like, that made me really happy. Yeah.
Do you think you'll make a sequel to Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang Part 2? Because there was a third guy that you weren't able to interview that time, right?
You know what? Yeah, my goal as a documentarian is to go to Pyongyang one day and to film like a series of vlogs / like series documentaries there. But, you know, who knows when that happened with the travel ban.
You are a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, so I can't go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know Aaron Pan. We know Aaron Pan.
Yeah.
That's actually, yeah, right. So Aaron Pan is the photographer from Singapore who's been there like 16, 17, 18
Many
times. And he used to do that, right? He would go there, he would film mukbangs and just daily life there. So you would want to do something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you would probably add some commentary because he wouldn't really comment. He would just film it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. Some people will comment on my YouTube like videos like, "Oh, this is propaganda." I've never denied that it's propaganda. 100% is propaganda.
I mean, everything is
Yeah.
Everything has anything that has a narrative is
it's
technically
propaganda. Yeah, it's just that Americans think propaganda is like only for like communists, but no, it's like the Soviet Union as well as like, you know, DPRK government had or has departments that are called like Ministry of Propaganda or something of that sort. The U.S. has called it something else, right?
I mean, even election videos are propaganda.
Communications. We call it communications or public relations.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
PR.
named differently, but
Yeah.
So I want to do propaganda. I want to do propaganda that shows the daily life of people in North Korea and, you know, how the socialist system works over there, and also like, you know, the flaws too. Like what kind of, you know, people like what do people complain about over there? You know, I want to capture all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And any word on when this travel ban is actually going to end?
No clue. I mean, I knew that Biden was gonna budge, and with Trump in office, I mean,
Because he's the one that did it.
Trump is the one that.
Well, Rex Tillerson, more so, who
Yeah.
he fired later.
But yeah, I mean,
Who hired him though?
it was, I mean, I don't think.
deep state.
I don't think. I don't think
As,
the
Why would Trump hire an oil executive to be?
I mean, you know that his first cabinet was just they were all swamp picks. Not to say
So are
that.
this
swamp-
ones.
Well, right, but I'm not. But what I'm saying is that like, yeah, like everybody knew that.
So do you think Trump is going to end the travel ban finally? Because it was Rex Tillerson who did it and not Trump.
Probably not.
I
I mean,
don't
I don't
think
think
so.
he just cares unless it's in his interests.
We got to do some APAC lobbying to end
APAC lobbying.
to at least end the travel ban because it's ridiculous that we can't.
ACPAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, ACPAC. It's ridiculous that we can't go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
yeah.
But
What do you mean it's ridiculous? If they lift the travel ban, then they can't demonize North Korea.
well,
Obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I mean,
actually
that's-
curious. I mean, I haven't really heard about like your opinions on Korea like at all. So I was curious
wow,
to
okay.
give.
Very interesting.
I don't really know
question.
either, actually.
Oh,
That's
yeah?
good,
Okay, so that's a
What
good
do you think
question
about
then.
Korea?
I don't know that I have an official opinion on it.
Still gathering data.
I'm like gathering data right now.
Impressions?
Impressions.
like a year ago.
I did give you a data point.
Comparatively to a year ago, I would say that I have been a little bit more open to North Korea. But for sure, a year ago, I would say that I was
More mainstream.
more mainstream. Yeah.
So,
I
It's
don't.
understandable.
I think about it quite often, and I'm not copping out on an answer because I think about it quite often what my stance is on North Korea. Because even sometimes when I make videos, I'm like, do I make a video about this? And I don't know anymore where I stand.
Here's another question.
I'm still in the process of gathering
What do
data
you
to figure out.
What do you think of the movie The Interview?
Oh, I hated it.
Okay. Did you hate it at the time?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what did you hate about it?
I thought it was just like,
Racist or
yeah.
Okay. So you did think it was racist.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that
okay,
was
okay.
obvious.
Yeah.
You saw the whole thing.
Some Koreans don't.
Because like this is the thing too is that like when I think back on it, every time there was a scare in American media about Korea, my mom lives in Korea, so I would always worry. So I'd call my mom and be like, "Hey mom, this is what they're saying." She's like, "That's not even a blip in the radar here," and I'd be like, "What? They're talking about like nukes." She's like, "No one's even talking about that here." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm really confused. You know what I mean? So like now when I think about what I've been hearing now along with that, I'm kind of like, for sure there was definitely propaganda. I just don't know where I land quite yet.
Right.
But
I think that's fair.
I think I'm more leaning towards like because like a year ago I didn't even really understand Radio Free Asia.
Oh yeah.
You see what I mean? Like that's where I was a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, you would actually read radio.
Well, I didn't know. No. Not that I read it, but I didn't know
That
how
it was like a
it was a
CIA,
government
yeah.
controlled
Right,
fucking.
okay.
Like I didn't know that.
Anything that has free in it, I'm always suspicious. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, they have Radio
Yeah.
Free Europe. They have,
Yeah,
that's-
no. I'm aware of all that
Okay,
now,
okay,
but
yeah.
back then I didn't. So like comparatively to that, I would say I'm a lot more open. I just don't know definitively. I can say like this is my stance as of yet.
Sometimes communists joke and they put their Radio Free America as their Twitter handle.
That's fun.
Right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so this is Aram's video. Aram is a friend of ours from Singapore. This is, was it the Pyongyang Science and Technology Center, right? It's shaped like an
atom.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. It's pretty cool.
Wait, what's his deal? He's just a photographer, or is just a?
Yeah, he's just a photographer. So what happened was, I think 2013 or so, he decided one day that he's just going to go there just to check it out. And
Get some unique shots. Yeah.
yeah, and he was, he's a Christian dude, and I don't know if I can say all this, but I think he got some trouble back in Singapore with his people there. But he wanted to go there and say, he's like, I'm not trying to give any statement. I'm just saying this is what I see.
Really? Because Singapore and North Korea have decent relations, don't they?
No, they do. And, there's an embassy there and everything.
Yeah.
But, I mean, him personally in his life and
Oh.
what he's into and stuff. So I think he had to deal with some troubles. But he would go there and just try to film normal life. And it's not like he doesn't have his
That globe is
criticisms.
It is pretty trivial. I keep trying not to pay attention to it, but it is.
That globe.
Yeah. The fonts are kind of...
Like old school,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah. It's very, it's like so weird to see such a futuristic thing and then see such like a dated font.
it's kind of like, what is it, Space Odyssey?
Yeah.
When you watch Space Odyssey,
Actually,
it's-
it reminds me kind
Or
of
anything that's cyberpunk, where it's like future but old.
Do you ever watch that show that came out recently?
Westworld? No.
It was based off a video game, Fallout.
Fallout. Yeah, just like
You know,
that.
yeah.
That like
Old school
cyberpunky.
60s.
Well, technically it's not cyberpunk,
50s,
but
60s look.
That
but like,
retro futuristic look, like what they thought the
Yeah.
future was going to look like back in the 60s.
have you been to North Korea yet, though?
Never. Right when I became a citizen was when Otto Warmbier happened.
2017.
Yeah.
Wow, that
So I couldn't.
sucks.
And we were like, my family and I were planning on going, but like the summer I became a citizen.
Oh,
that's
did
when it
you
happened.
did you apply to become a citizen to visit North Korea?
No, I mean I came here in 2009,
Okay.
and no, I'm sorry, 2006. Sorry.
Okay.
And
You were 9 years old.
yeah, I was
Okay.
9 years old. And we've been like, we didn't delay the process at all. I mean, we've been just waiting and waiting. It's just that the
Oh.
process just took that long.
It's a long
Yeah.
process.
I see.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, hopefully we can go soon.
Yeah, maybe we could do like a Radio Korea special.
Wait,
or
when
something.
Yeah.
when people were allowed to go, could they fly directly into Pyongyang?
No.
No, Beijing and then.
Oh, okay.
U.S. citizens were not even allowed to take the train into North Korea from China. American citizens had to fly in, unless you were like a special,
Envoy. or
a
something.
favored person. Like,
Oh.
So
Yeah.
people
Dennis
can go to
Rodman.
North Korea still if they're American, right? It's just they'd
if
have
they
to be a
don't
little
stamp
creative.
your passport, maybe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, I'm 100% confident that like they're monitoring everyone, like every U.S. citizen that's going. So whether they stamp it or not, I mean,
Who's monitoring the U.S.?
The CIA.
whether it be the FBI or CIA or I mean, if you talk
the
to a
US.
lot of people who's been to like Pyongyang, a lot of them will tell you like I've been like questioned after. Have you been questioned?
I got questioned.
Right, but that's only because there's
over something
documentation
else.
that says you went there, right? But if I went to, say, the Chinese border
Yeah,
and just kind of was like,
it just ran in.
Well, if there's no record of you going there, I think the fear is that
oh,
the
that's
record
true.
that you.
But
might
if I
never
if I'm a
leave.
true believer in the North Koreans, then I
Uh-huh.
shouldn't be.
You shouldn't be afraid. Right. Right. See, that's what I mean when I say I still don't know where I
They
am.
would totally.
That's what I mean. I swear to God, it's not a cop out. I still don't know where I land.
True.
Yeah.
If Doug snuck into North Korea, they would totally take you as a U.S. spy.
yeah.
You're totally there to infiltrate and like pretend to be a communist. They would
Yeah.
they would keep you in. If they were to let you stay, they would keep you in education camp for years.
You see, that's what.
And then they would conclude I should be their next leader because
I
I'm
would-
so well grasped at Marxism Leninism. They were like, oh shit, this guy is the truth.
Put barf screens.
Boom.
Put barf emojis all over the screen right now.
Boom,
But-
DPRK.
What is more likely is after a few years, they're like, okay, let's let him try, and they'll give you some kind of job, maybe in propaganda or something, just to see what you do.
I'll succeed, and they'll be like,
No, and they'll keep you in that department
No.
forever.
No, the funny thing is all of this would be gone. Doug would be. 예, 알겠습니다. 예, 죄송합니다. 예, 가겠습니다.
And I'm curious. So when you say like you're on the fence or like you don't know where you like, so like I mean I don't know if
Okay, so when I say that,
Yeah.
like when I talk to Doug sees North Korea as this like utopia. They
I don't
didn't-
see it as a utopia.
Well, but you see it as in like everything they did was legitimate. It was reasonable.
Yes, in their interests to defend their sovereignty.
Where I'm at,
Sovereignty?
sovereignties. Where I'm at right now is okay. For sure, America and the rest of the world has negative propaganda against North Korea, but they did do like they don't treat their people that well, right?
so for me personally,
Like that's where I land.
yeah, I don't try to tell anyone like you gotta be pro North Korea or like you gotta think North Korea is like good or whatever. I think the most important thing is understanding why North Korea is the way it is.
No,
how it got
yes,
there.
Yes, that I do understand.
Like, let's
Yeah,
say
yeah.
North Korea had $1 gajillion and gave every citizen what they wanted. Then but obviously the reason why they can't treat their citizens well is
For sure.
because they're literally being castle sieged by America.
For sure. But when I see things like that institute that was empty, and it's like, how much money did that institute take to build? It's like, how much of that money could have been used?
Which institute?
The science.
The one that was
okay,
just
okay,
shown.
okay.
Yeah.
I would argue that the notion of North Korean government not treating its people well, in the sense that okay, well let's first define like not good. Is it intent? Is it intentionally? As in, if you're sacrificing the goodwill of the people,
Yeah, well,
are you
that's what I'm
gaining
trying to say.
something
When I
else?
see institutions like that or
Yeah.
places like water parks that are like mostly empty, that's
oh,
the
they are
thought
not
that
empty. They are not empty.
Well, I've seen footage where they're pretty empty, but like that's what I'm trying to say is that like when I see stuff like that, my mind immediately goes towards, as it would anywhere else, could that money have gone towards something more beneficial to the people? And in that sense, I don't really know what's real and what's not. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So like I don't really know where I land because I do see flaws, like I see flaws in every other government.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they're not allowed to leave. They don't have, free internet access, things like that. I think those are things
I don't think
that...
they're not allowed to leave, right?
No,
Like,
okay, you need
Russia
permission.
In the way that we can just dip
Right.
to like
Sure.
Yeah, for us, we just need to buy a ticket, have our passport.
Yes.
But it's
we
not
can
like
go.
they're
Freedom,
there
the
for
freedom
a
of information
billion
for me is
years.
also a big thing too. You know what I mean? Like that's like some ways of repressing and controlling your people, which again, I'm not saying that without saying that like our government does that too. So I'm not saying that like one is perfect or the other.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean, you got to also remember that the DPRK is technically at war with the United States.
For sure.
70 years.
For sure.
So it's kind of like a wartime sort of government, if that makes sense. Even if it
Martial
does
law.
seem 70 years, wait, you shouldn't be, on alert that long. They have been, and they had to be.
and I understand why.
Yeah.
Like that part I do understand the humanity, the humanizing part of it. It's just one of those things for me where I'm like, I don't know that I have information to either figure out either way whether or not the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I
mean, I
mean?
guess like then that would kind of like put to the other point, the other side, right? Did the ends justify the means when Park Chung-hee accepted Japanese money in 1965 for
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All of that too. But that's what I'm saying. For me, it's not one or the other. It's just like me trying to figure out my opinion on DPRK on its own.
Yeah.
Without comparing
Yeah,
it.
and I think these are all very valid questions and everything,
valid.
but the one thing that I would say is, do we all support a peace treaty in
That
Korea?
yes, that part I do know. I do want there to be a unification of North and South and end the war. That
Yeah.
part I do know.
I think when there's peace in Korea, even if they are separate countries, if there's peace in Korea, North Korea can relax on their paranoia a bit and maybe start letting in more information, start letting more travel. But, it's this tiny little country, and I think
See
can you
everything as a
imagine
threat.
Instagram or whatever just taking hold? And like everything that these people see about their country is like, oh my God, we're horrible. Like, what? Oh my God, we got to. And
Yeah.
you might get a few people who are like, oh, I guess we should fight back or something. And I think that's the danger of what the free internet there, which is, I guess, why, especially China, they don't have, you got to use VPN to see Facebook and stuff like that. And same thing in the US. I think, like we saw when they were thinking about banning TikTok.
Yeah.
And that's like a global use thing. But if it was actually Douyin that was becoming number one in the US, I feel like the US would absolutely ban it because that's
sure.
completely Chinese. So the same way, I can see from North Korea's perspective why they wouldn't want
They should never allow
all this
Instagram or
like Zuckerberg stuff into
American
the
tech
country and Google and all that, because everything is going to be bad. But I think the first thing is end the war. End the war. You need a peace treaty. Start normalizing relations. Start trading and whatever, and then unification can come somewhere down the line. I'm sure it'll happen. It
Yeah,
might
like for
take a
instance,
while.
like I recognize that like America doesn't want the war to end. So that's not going to happen.
Right.
Like we know that's not going to happen because it's not beneficial to this country. Like that I do understand. But like does that justify some of the stuff that happens within the borders of North Korea? I don't know. I don't know that I have enough information.
I think you're still miles ahead of most Koreans.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Because comparing myself to where I was a year ago,
Yeah.
I understand where I'm at. I just still don't know where this path is headed. And I'm on a path.
think
I just don't know where it's going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's very fair.
yeah. But so you've
Thank you for asking that question. That's
Oh, of course.
for someone to come in and ask me such a hard question. I feel like that takes some cojones.
I mean, it's asking a Korean what you
no,
think
no,
about
yeah,
Korean.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah. But you had also the insight to know that I didn't have a stance on it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
I mean,
he
seemed
knows
it.
me. He knows
Yeah,
Doug.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah. And then, so you changed in the last year sometime, and you started thinking like, okay, maybe some things are off. David,
I would say the most in the last how long have I been on the show for?
8 months.
Oh, like 6, 7, 8
Yes,
months,
whatever
whatever.
it's been.
Okay.
Mostly
Nice,
that.
nice.
Okay.
I think for me, not only was it the turning point, like reading Malcolm X's book and realizing how much America lied to us about everything, It's just kind of like, okay, if America lied to us about everything, what else did they lie about? And just like reading everything I could about the Korean War and being like, yeah, these motherfuckers.
Yeah,
like, I don't care what the DPRK did after 1953. Like, everything is justified in my mind because of the Korean War.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's where I differ, and that's why I don't know. You see what I mean?
I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
I don't think you have
No,
to.
no, no. Yeah. I know that. I know Doug's on a very
Like, they have been the CIA's #1 enemy since the CIA was created. So,
Right.
you know, if they're the CIA's enemy and the CIA, you know, represents the
our
ultimate
enemy.
Satan, you know.
fair.
The way I see
where
it
you're
is this, you know, people say like, if I like, for example, if someone says I'm a North Korea supporter, they're saying, how can you support all the horrible atrocities and all that? But if someone says I'm a South Korea supporter, I'm a UK supporter, I support the US, does that mean you support all the horrible things that the US does or that South
They
Korea
say
does?
the same thing when you say, "Oh, I support Palestine." Oh, you support terrorism? It's like so
Right.
stupid. Shut up.
So if you support the US, does that mean you support genocide of, well, I guess you do. No, I don't know.
They bring up the LGBTQ of Muslim people, like, oh, they can't even, you know, there can't be gay people here, so why are you protesting for Palestine? It's like, just.
Well, then I guess you could tell them, you know, if Israelis spit on Christians, why are you supporting Israel? Right?
Well,
yeah.
They don't pay attention to that.
Right. So, you know, it's like, you know, people support Japan or okay, let's just say South Korea. People love South Korea, right? But South Korea has had horrible things happen in their prisons.
It's literally a fascist country for 40 years.
But even now, I'm sure there are things that go on, maybe not as a matter of official policy, but maybe done by individuals like prison guards or police officers, whatever, soldiers, whatever. But maybe some of the things that did happen in the North, horrible things, could have been committed by individuals that they're now trying to say is like, oh, well, this is official policy of the government. This is the official policy of Kim Jong-un. And I think, well, that's unfair. I don't think Kim Jong-un is like saying torture everybody. Like, what is he, a sadist? I don't think he's a sadist.
Like, that was more similar
don't
to
know.
Park Chung-hee with the Yushin stuff in 1972. You know, he basically
Right.
declared himself dictator for life until he died.
Killed, you know. So yeah. Anyway, so for you know, I support North Korea in the sense that I support its right to exist, and I support an end to the war, and that North and South can recognize each other, and that really the biggest barrier to peace, or maybe the only one, is the U.S. And whatever issues that people have with North Korea, a lot of those things would be resolved naturally as a result of ending the war. And, you know, we can see progress from there. But by constantly demonizing and having these
like
invasion scenarios.
The other issue was like that, you know, ground invasion was obsolete by the 90s. Like, and that was the main concern between the North and the South for the longest time, right? That the North was going to invade through a ground invasion and take Seoul because it's like only 80 kilometers away from the border. But then, like, once technology advanced to the point of, like, you know, the 1990s, that's when North Korea started to pivot. They were like, we're spending way too much money now on military. We need to save money. That's why they went to nuclear weapons, because it's like a lot more cost efficient to be like, oh, this is for defense. Like, because, you know, on the other side, they were concerned about, you know, South Korea and the Americans storming through and taking the entire country. So it's very clearly obvious that the polarity of the aggression has switched. For the first 20 years, it was mostly the North Koreans that were trying to, you know, complete the invasion and complete the reunification. But like by the 70s, the mid 70s, I think both Kim Il Sung and Park Chung Hee recognized that this was going to be a stalemate that they would have. Because like in 72, that's when North Korea declared that Pyongyang was now their capital. Because for the longest time, they declared that Seoul was their capital because they considered the entire country theirs. Yeah. But in 72, it was a switch, like, oh, we're going to be in this for a long haul. So I think at that point in the 70s, the aggression started changing, when now it's the South Koreans who are trying to take over the entire country and not the North Koreans. But I don't know. From
What's your take on that? Is that I don't know about this.
I don't think there was ever a switch of the polarity of aggression. I think it was always the U.S. I mean, for example, the U.S. had nuclear weapons stored in.
No, I understand,
South
but
Korea.
in terms of like the on the ground between the South and the North,
Yeah.
like who had designs on like
Well, I mean, South Korea hasn't had control of its military since 1950. So, really, when we say South Korea, we really have to say the United States. And the
Sure.
United States wasn't giving up on, stomping on the North.
No,
I think until North got nukes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think like Kim Il Sung, obviously, in the 1960s and the 70s, they were trying to kind of like aggressively push because like the tide was turning for the communists too during the Vietnam War in the 1960s, because most people were starting to see like America as bad guy now, and so they were trying to push the advantage then to try to like they tried to kill Park Chung-hee in 69, and try to press the advantage. But I think like by the 70s, they came to some sort of like, not agreement, but because there was a détente going on between America and China at the time, there was a change of kind of like the character of like who was aggressing who, in my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can really look at it both ways, because
Yeah.
both sides were trying to kill.
I mean, I think it was just that. Yeah, America has had designs on Korea since 53, obviously, but I think because its attention was diverted in so many different directions, during the Cold War.
Yeah.
Whereas Park Chung-hee and Kim Il Sung obviously have their minds focused on the one situation.
Yeah.
I think different parties had different motivations
Yeah.
at different times.
Okay.
Do you guys know the movie 실미도?
Yeah.
I do. I want to
yeah.
see it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's an old movie, but it's pretty much like the South Korean version of the Park Chung-hee attempted assassination.
Yeah.
Except it went wrong and they attacked their own government.
Yeah. Apparently, I read that Kim Il Sung said that the North Korean attempt was not authorized by him.
Really?
So he apparently apologized to some sort of South Korean envoy and said that wasn't me.
I recall that differently. I recall he just said like, that was, I recall it was something more like, that was, it was just,
This thing.
hey, things happen.
things happen.
That's what I recall. But I think Doug reads more about, because I don't read that much anymore anyway.
Oh, there was also the 69 Guam Doctrine. I don't know if you know about that. With Nixon basically saying we're pulling out our resources because Asia's a little too crazy for us.
And by the way, for those watching, 실미도 is a movie. It starts off with a bunch of assassins from the north sent down to assassinate the South
It's
Korean
like
leader.
Suicide Squad, but real.
Right, and then they get caught, and then they say we were sent to kill President Park, and then Park decides he takes a bunch of criminals, right, South Korean criminals, and says, "You guys are criminals, but you can be like heroes and patriots," and they were going to train these criminals to fight and go to the north to kill Kim Il Sung, I guess, and then we know this through history, but. Anyway, they decided against the plan, so they said, "Okay, we got to get rid of the
They
evidence."
decided against the plan because that was when the United States was pursuing détente with China. So that was 71.
I recall in the film it was something they said, Park and Kim are trying to talk about peace or something.
And that was triggered by the
Triggered by the
Chinese.
Nixon then.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So anyway, 실미도, it's a good
Well, that was
movie.
only because they wanted the Chinese to help them defeat the Soviets. But yeah, sorry, it's complicated.
Anyway, speaking of North Korea, though, now that Trump's, gonna be back in January, and he actually, he threatened fire and fury, but all it takes was a meeting, and then they became like BFFs. So, I mean, what's gonna happen this time? What do you think, David?
I think
You were watching closely even back then. I remember
Yeah.
we were watching that stuff closely.
Yeah. I think that was the final straw for any negotiations, like willingness to negotiate from Pyongyang. I think the last time was really the last straw, and I think it's very obvious that the DPRK really had real hopes, that like a
Oh, and meeting Trump?
yeah, and like with Moon and stuff, I think the DPRK really had high hopes that wow, this actually might be it. And when it fell through from the same reason, with the U.S. just backing out and lying again, like with every other nuclear negotiation that happened so far, I think that's when the DPRK won. They said too, like, yeah, that was it. Like we're not doing this shit
And they
anymore.
did overreact a bit by blowing up the building, I think.
Yeah, what do you think
It was
about
a bit
that? What do you
much.
think blowing the
I mean, they even
reunification
recently
statue.
they blew up the reunification arch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
What
Arch
do
of
you think about that?
Reunification, yeah.
Yeah, and they shut down the news site that I've been reading for years, DPRK Today. I'm like, bro, like, why like foreign readers have nothing to do with like what went wrong. Like I don't know why you're shutting that down, but like this is what I mean. I don't agree with everything that like North Korea does.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously that has nothing to do with should they be on the target of U.S. nuclear attack? Of course not. But yeah, I mean obviously I think DPRK does things that I don't agree with. I don't like. But I think, like you said, when you have the world's strongest military with like shit ton of nukes pointed right at your back, I mean, the things that you do, I think you can expect it to be unreasonable sometimes, to be overreaching sometimes. And I think any country would do that. I think any country in the position that North Korea has been in the past 7 years would act just like North Korea, or it would not survive.
Like Libya.
Yeah, I mean, and Libya straight from the past, and look what happened to Libya.
Right.
I think if Libya stayed the way that it was, I mean, the way that it did with North Korea would have
Gaddafi's
survived.
mistake was trusting
The US, yeah.
And they fucking killed him later.
Yeah.
Not only that, they killed his grandchild. Like they
Oh,
literally,
I didn't know that.
They literally bombed his daughter's house and killed his infant granddaughter.
Oh my God.
And there's videos where you see, because Gaddafi lived in a tent, and there's videos of Gaddafi just being a grandpa and just playing with his daughter, and you're like, I can't believe Obama killed that little girl. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Hillary Clinton killed her.
Oh yeah, kill it. And Hillary, and she laughed about it when he died.
She did laugh about
Like
it.
that was,
We saw he died.
it's really
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
It's just fucking scum.
So I think so. When I see stuff like that and how they destroyed Iraq and all this, I'm like, okay, I can see why the DPRK has nukes. Like that's the equalizer, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you fuck with us. Well, it's basically saying don't fuck with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to prevent.
Because like he was saying, the same thing happened with the nuclear proliferation treaties in the 1990s. Like DPRK was on board; they were
Yeah.
like trying to do it, but then like he said, like the U.S. would renege on its agreements, and they were like, "All right, fuck you."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for.
And I think like the fact that North Korea tried again with the U.S. is sign that like it is not in the interest of North Korea or any country for that matter to be in hostility with the United States. Like no one wants to be in that situation. I think the fact that North Korea tried again in 2017, 18, 19 is proof that, if North Korea could do away with nukes but make peace with the West and South Korea, it would take that. But I think as soon as the U.S. showed that that's not going to be an option, that's when the DPRK said, yeah, we are never giving up. I think they publicly announced, like, denuclearization is now off the table for now and, like, for the future. Like, we're
And
never
it should
offering
be.
that.
It should. They should have
Yeah.
nukes for the rest of their lives.
I mean, just like conservatives here, they don't trust the deep state, right? So do they expect North Korea to trust the American deep state? And by the way, here's some of the footage of. I mean, this is pretty short. It's only like 27 seconds, but there's like a 10-minute video I've seen where he just acts like a normal grandpa, and and that's his tent. That's where he lived. Like he's not like some guy living like a billionaire or anything.
Oh yeah, that was what they were trying to say about Hamas's leader, right? That he was just this billionaire, like hiding out somewhere, and then
Yeah, and then he died trying to attack the drone, right? Yeah. So it's the leaders here that are the ones hiding out, aren't they? They're the ones hiding, yeah. And by the way, did you see that news about 500 North Korean troops being killed in Ukraine?
Did. I did.
Do you think that's legit or?
I think the whole thing about so whenever the KCIA, now rebranded as NIS, National Intelligence Service, releases any news about North Korea, like 98 out of 100 times it's been either debunked or just they backtracked on it or something. So I think there's two things. One is Ukrainian, whatever news Ukraine releases and whatever news the KCI has reported, it just cannot be trusted without a lot of corroboration. And second, even the news reports themselves report that North Korean troops are in Kursk, which is in Russia, right? So, I mean, if you read the news, you get the impression that North Koreans are now in Ukraine, invading Ukraine with Russia. But the news articles themselves say that, they're in Kursk, technically playing a role of defending Russia. So, I mean, even if that was true, and North Korean troops are in Russia,
they're in a defensive position.
Yeah, they're they're not. And I think the craziest part about all this is Yoon Suk-yeol, the South Korean president, saying,
Yoon.
well, now we have to send our stuff and our soldiers to Ukraine. Why? Well, what does that have anything to do with
idiot.
South Korea? That has nothing to do with South Korea. You know, and worsening ties with China, worsening ties with Russia, hurts like South Korean capitalists too. They don't like it either.
As much as I think Park Jong-hyun is Chinpo's scum, at least he was smart. At least he wouldn't say stupid things like that.
Yeah, yeah. He's
So-
the most blatant, I think, like U.S. puppet president we've ever had.
But conservatives here seem to be against supporting Ukraine, right?
Yeah, which is
Right,
so
and
odd.
Donald Trump also has spoken about that, right?
Yeah.
But what do Korean conservatives in Korea? How do they feel then? That they should support Ukraine to go against North Korea, or
I have no clue, but I do know that it's not economically speaking. I mean, for example, it was either Hyundai or I think it was Hyundai. Hyundai had a huge plans to open. Had huge plans to open up a factory in Russia, but ever since that broke out, and
What about their young male population? Wouldn't they be like, fuck that, I'm not going
yeah, I mean,
fucking...
if you're a South Korean like young man,
right,
you're not gonna
yeah.
want to go to some random European country and die there. Like what?
Yeah.
you're just trying to do your year and a half,
Yeah, yeah, and just get out. Like,
get out, go back to Hongdae. Yeah,
yeah, but
okay.
yeah, and like South
Because that was a large part of Yoon's base too, right? Like young
was
men.
the young, yeah.
Yeah,
which
so
is
what
a whole nother
aren't they
discussion.
flipping on him now then?
I mean, he has like extremely low approval rate now. I think like with 20-something percent.
What is what is
crazy.
the
Yeah.
is there like a recall or impeachment process then? Or
I mean, there is a movement. There's an ongoing movement for it.
but like what can happen legally though, like from a movement?
Well,
I mean, they've impeached presidents before,
yeah,
many of times.
You think he'll end up like President Park Geun-hye?
yeah, but I think I don't know if that same level of mass mobilization will happen under him, because I think like Park Geun-hye was just like blatant like betrayal of public trust, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if Yoon saying such stupid and traitorous things is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got what, 2.5 years left in office? They got 5 years, right?
Yeah. South
So it's
Korean
been about
presidency is
2.5
longer.
years. Now he's halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any memes about him from South Koreans?
I don't know. I'm not really in
'Cause
touch
I
with
would
the
just
South Korean
start
meme.
putting him like with the Japanese
Yeah.
glasses.
Have you guys seen when Park Geun-hye was in prison before Moon exonerated her in Ktown by Western and Third? There
She was in Ktown?
I'm sorry, no. By Western and Vermont, there was always a massive billboard.
Wilshire, Vermont. Yeah.
Oh.
No, Third and I mean maybe it was in Wilshire too, but
Because Western and Vermont are parallel.
I'm sorry, Third and Vermont.
Oh, Third and
Yeah,
Vermont.
Third and Vermont. For years there was like free Park Geun-hye, like she did nothing wrong for years when she was in prison.
Oh, I never
and I
saw
always
that.
thought that was so funny.
Oh,
In K-Town.
I remember seeing one of those
Yeah?
things somewhere. Yeah. That's from the conservative
That's what,
Korean,
that's what
South
my
Korean.
parents say.
Yeah.
And I said, you guys are Chinpa scum.
You called your parents scum? To
Well,
their-
I'm saying like, stop being Chinpa scum.
I just looked up Yoon Sung-yeol meme.
Yeah,
What is this? Yumboji?
I have no idea.
최신 MG
I'm not
세대
really too in
유행어.
touch with the South Korean meme scene. I wish I was, but
Yeah,
I'm
I don't really know. What is this? 윤석열의 무식함에 안철수 마시러 도리도리 고개를. Okay, so Anchersu he's a liberal guy, isn't he?
I guess
Wasn't he
so.
like a big rich guy? Anyway, what is this?
Oh, I was just making like a meme because like I was thinking of making a meme with the Japanese sun like glasses.
Him with
Yeah,
Yeah, what's he doing here? I don't know. Okay, so these are.
Or they talk about like the four evil Korean traitors, right? In
Uh-huh.
1895 or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put him in that picture.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, anyway, what is?
No, 나랑.
Okay, 너 나랑 일 하나 같이 하자.
What? That's Moon Jae in the back.
Yeah.
Why is he the rich person? Why is he the rich
No,
guy?
I thought it was like a cop driving a.
Oh,
Is it
really?
because he was a prosecutor, right? Okay, I don't know what.
I thought this was
yeah.
a reference to the,
Yeah,
Parasite.
I don't know Korean well enough to know the meaning of this stuff.
Yeah.
Never mind. I don't look at these. I didn't mean to
He kind of
drive this.
looks like
conversation
Ted
this way.
Cruz.
Ted Cruz.
I don't know. He's got like a Ted Cruz face.
That's a
Cruz.
stretch.
No. You.
I mean, the
President
forehead,
Yoon?
maybe the forehead and the hairline.
Maybe like looking like
I
a
mean,
complete cuck.
They both look like toads.
See any resemblance?
You don't see any?
No.
Anyway, okay, cool. All right, so do you think Donald Trump then, off of Korea, let's go just on Trump. Do you think Donald Trump, because I heard a Trump supporter.
Or I guess, like, what would you prefer? What would you have preferred, a Kamala presidency or Trump presidency? What with regards to the DPRK? Nothing. Just that one topic.
That's tough. That's really tough. Because on one hand, Trump said shit that like upset South Koreans, right? Like before, he said South Korea won't do anything without U.S. permission, and then recently he called South Korea a cash cow, right? These are things that are like Democrats say in the back, but won't never say in front of a camera.
Yeah.
So in that sense, in terms of like mobilizing people and getting people to like see, oh my God, the U.S. kind of laughs at us, like U.S. Like treats us like like
see
second.
the truth.
Yeah. So I think a Trump presidency does play that role, but in terms of like escalations and tensions, which is like extremely high right now, probably the highest it's ever been for like decades right now in the Korean Peninsula.
Is worse with Trump, is what you're getting at.
But all of that tension though built up during Biden.
Yeah, it did, which is why I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, neither would have been good. I don't.
No. Yeah,
what's worse?
I'll say this: both is really bad.
Yeah, what's worse?
To say which one's worse?
Yeah, but
honestly,
Trump is supposed to be the one who's fighting against the deep state.
So it almost to you doesn't make a difference then.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make myself look like a fool when 1 year later Trump starts war with North Korea, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like
he's unpredictable, right?
He's
in
really
my opinion,
unpredictable.
foreign
wild
policy
card.
has been bipartisan for the past, since the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's not a single voice in Congress saying like, "Hey guys, let's make peace with Korea." Like, there's no one saying that.
Or Israel, to that matter.
Yeah.
For that matter.
So, yeah, I don't know. But I think the only positive is with any Republican presidency, whether it's in South Korea or in the United States, it makes the liberals come out to the streets. I think that's always been like a benefit of a Republican presidency.
Yeah, that was one thing that after Trump won, I saw a bunch of there were some Muslim pages that I follow, and they were saying like, "See, Kamala lost, and this is what you get," and then I saw the comments from liberals saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, now you guys are going to die even more now."
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And all I could say was like,
Mask off.
if it takes a Trump, I mean, first of all, that's horrible. You're not good people if you say that. But secondly, I felt like, okay, because now they're like, now Trump's going to kill more now. I'm like, oh, now you care.
Yeah.
So all it took was a Trump winning for you to care about Gaza. Now you care. Had Kamala won, you wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, okay, now the pussy hats are, last time they wore the pink pussy hats in downtown LA.
Yeah.
Ruined because I'm trying to go to work. But, I guess they were doing something with the hats.
Yeah.
So I guess they'll bring them out again.
Yeah.
With the watermelons, I don't know what's going to happen, but now they care. So that's the benefit I see is now they care.
Yeah.
I did
Or
notice,
pretend to.
so I lived in New York, obviously, during the Bush presidency. I was in high school. I graduated high school 2002, whatever. So I was around a lot of liberals, right? Because I grew up in New York, Westchester County. It's a very liberal state. And I would hear all the time about like how we shouldn't be in Iraq and blah, 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 whatever from liberals during Bush's presidency. But once, Obama became president, all that just, it just, oh yeah, we I guess we voted for it too, but maybe it had to happen or whatever. And I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
I do think though that with like the really young generation, whether it be like high school, even high schoolers to like college students today, I feel like that is changing. Like that brainless cycle of liberals just like sleeping and waking up, sleeping and waking up. I feel like more and more young people are dissociating from the Democratic Party. Yeah. And I think Gaza was like a huge wake up call for a lot of young people.
For sure.
So I think things are bound to change in terms of
I don't know if it's like more of an ignorance thing or just like, okay, maybe it's an ignorance thing, but like an ignorance in like believing in the system.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people trust that the people that they voted in are going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And they forget that people are flawed and selfish.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think to your point, that's what's being broken down.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily this thing where people are like, oh, I don't care now. I think it's just like, I think it's a foolish trust in the government that people are now starting to be like, why are we trusting in the government?
Yeah.
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 You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you can thank Biden and Harris for that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And you saw that Muslim voters actually majority voted for Jill Stein.
Yeah.
And not only that, Trump beat Kamala with Muslim votes by like 20%.
Yeah.
That's crazy too. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so I saw that. I was like, maybe Asians should be next. And you know, Muslims. Okay, we got the Muslims.
Yeah.
They've withdrawn support from the two parties. Like all the minority groups should do the same.
Yeah.
Like Democrats and Republicans, I feel are that's the white people's parties.
It is the white people's
Let them
parties.
pick.
Yeah.
Even though most white people are still poor.
Not even just white people, just rich people.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like the polarity of racism and
No, that's who it ultimately benefits, but they will somehow use that to be like, hey, you guys are one of us. And I think a lot of
Right,
white
but
people
what
don't
I-
realize it's like, oh, it's not going to benefit us. Like the whole tariffs thing.
right. I guess all I'm saying is just like, I think the distinction between class and race has been kind of blurred, especially by the CIA and the FBI in the past 30, 40 years. So I want to like kind of like be like, well, it's more that
Yeah.
there are a lot of like, what I'm saying is that there are a lot of non-white stooges for imperialism.
Yeah.
Before we end, though, I wanted to ask this. So I watched you guys' episode with Young, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I was really surprised that he didn't call Hamas terrorists, and that he like drew that like comparison.
Oh,
with,
when we asked about
yeah.
I told him that last year.
Oh, really?
But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was pretty surprised by that because when I did my episode of Culture Shock with him like a year ago or something like that, he seemed very like pretty much against like a lot of things that I was saying. But yeah, so I was curious when watching it. Was there like previous like a little bit of beef between the host and Young before, or was it just purely the stuff that he was saying?
I think Ed met Young for the first time that day.
Oh, that was the first time.
Yeah, that was my first interaction with him. Before that, I said hello to him. Hi, my name is Ed.
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes before we started.
Okay,
recording.
okay.
That was it.
So what? You seemed very obviously like clearly like not happy, with him. So I was just curious, like, what was it about the stuff that he was saying that made you just like not like him?
I said it on the episode. It was having opinions is fine, and if you can justify and explain your opinions, that's fine. It's when people start saying incorrect, absolute statements
as fact.
It triggers something in me where like inaccuracies make my eye twitch.
Yeah.
Like I said it before. I think I said it after we recorded that day, but I was like, if someone was like sitting here and they're like 1 + 1 = 700, and they were saying that as a matter of fact, I would sit here and I would start glitching and be like, no, we're not doing this. And people online were like, you should have let him finish and explain himself. And I'm like, no, if someone was like 1 + 1 = 700, I'm not going to start explaining. Like, I don't give a shit why you're dumb. Like, I don't care why you like thought like something. No. That's misinformation. And if one person believes and listens to that and thinks that's true, I failed. To me, I failed. So like, I don't know if it's like a neurodivergence or like the way I was raised, but like when I hear inaccuracies said as fact, I can't sit still.
Okay.
Right. And we had that discussion off the air also, but I think my response was like, well, I'd want to say, how is 1 + 1 = 700? How would you even get 350? What's 3 + 3 then? I would try to really dig into it to really like try to understand that brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, what did you get out of it?
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
Well, it was okay. So when I had my interview with him, what was an interview? It was like when I had my podcast with
'cause you
him.
talked to him, yeah.
My impression was like,
And we have 90 seconds. Yeah.
okay, yeah, like he would ask me a bunch of questions and I would answer every one of them, but he wouldn't let me finish and he would keep asking me new questions, which is fine. I mean, it's a very controversial topic. This time around, I kind of saw him being the same spot, and I don't know why, I just felt kind of a little bit bad for him.
Oh, I figured you'd laugh your ass off. Like,
No,
now you know what it's
I'm
like.
not evil. I'm not, yeah. I mean, even though like I had that experience with it, I still felt a little bit bad.
Actually,
but I get what you're saying though.
I do remember whenever we had like pro-China or whatever people on, he would ask this question, and as soon as he starts answering, there's something he doesn't like, he'd be like, well, what about this?
Yeah.
He kept changing it, right? Back then, I remember that. Now I remember that,
But yeah.
I guess for me, I was just like annoyed that he just came in here like thinking we were
Okay. Oh,
three
boy.
liberals or something, and trying to railroad the entire conversation.
okay.
And I was like,
I'm the
exactly. I was like, all right, okay.
No, Michael's freaking out because we're gonna pass the 1 hour mark, and I'm gonna make sure we do. But I
All right.
Now we're just doing it
I
too.
match people's energy. So if he's gonna cut people off, I'm gonna cut you off. That's how I
Okay.
am.
And that's it for Ktown Social Club today. Thanks for tuning in. Check the description box below for social media and to get our podcast information. I'm Michael Kim. Thanks to Ed Choi, Doug Kim, and David Yoon for joining us today. We'll see you next time, everybody. Peace out.